Meeting is called to order. This is a public hearing of the Bonner County Zoning Commission. The time is 5:30 p.m. The date is September 21st, 2023. The location is the first floor conference room of the Bonner County Administration Building on Highway 2, Sandpoint, Idaho. The meeting is being recorded and streamed live via Zoom and YouTube. If you like what you see, go ahead and hit that like button. If you don't want to miss future episodes, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. Please silence your pagers, digital watch alarms, personal digital assistants, and any other personal electronic devices. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Have a roll call. The commissioners starting from my left, please.
Commissioner Wakely, present.
Commissioner Marble, present.
Commissioner Weimer, present. Commissioner Webster, present.
Okay, with one commissioner absent, we do have a quorum. Is there anyone in attendance that needs assistance to see, hear, or participate in these proceedings? Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Commissioners and staff members, are there any changes to the agenda this hearing tonight? The minutes from our last meeting held on August 17th were made available for the commission to review. Does any commissioner or staff member care to correct those minutes? Minutes are approved under the consent agenda. For those of you who may not be familiar with these public hearings, I'll introduce the process. Zoning Commission are myself and the gentleman to my left and right. We are volunteers. We serve on this commission because we live in Bonner County and we love it here. And our job is to be objective as we review applications having to do with zoning and land use. We are not employees of the county. We're not politically elected, and we're not paid for this service. We do our best with support from professionals in the Bonner County Planning Department and other state and county departments and agencies to review these applications. The Zoning Commission are a quasi-judicial body, meaning that we don't make the rules, we follow the rules. This is in contrast to the Planning Commission, which is a separate body. They are quasi-legislative, meaning that they make many of the rules that we follow here. Staff are the folks here on my left, your right. They are members of the County Planning Department. Staff members are employees of the county. They're subject matter experts in the areas of zoning, planning, permitting, and they spend countless hours helping professionals and DIYers properly plan projects affecting land use. They act as filters, ensuring that what comes before this body is well prepared. Indeed, there are many applications and requests that never make it to these public hearings because the proposals are simply incompatible or unnecessary. And the public are also present here tonight, folks in front of me. The commission solicits public testimony to help the commission learn about facts relevant to these files that may not have been discovered or known to the applicant, their representative, or the planning department staff. We accept public testimony in written form before these hearings, and we love written testimony because we have more time to review those before these hearings. And there's opportunity also for public testimony given at the microphone during the proceedings later on. We have three files to review tonight. Two are applications for modification of conditional use permits. Those are conditional use permits that exist and the applicant would like to change them. And we have one application for a change of a zoning, call that a zone change. The procedure for hearing a file is as follows. Staff will present the staff report from the rostrum on my left over here. The applicant and or their representative presents an overview of the project from the same place. The commission, we may ask questions of staff and the applicant normally at the end of those presentations. Then the commission opens the hearing for public testimony. After that, the applicant and staff have an opportunity to rebut any information presented in public testimony. And finally, the commission will close the hearing to public testimony, deliberate, and we hope vote. The first file tonight is MOD 323, modification of conditional use permit. The applicant's requesting a modification to a previously approve Bonner County conditional use permit file C 296-09. The original permit approved in the year 2009 was limited to 5 employees on site. The applicants are now requesting modification to the conditions of approval of the new original permit to allow them to increase the number of employees to 10. The site is zoned rural 5 and is located off Kudu Loop Road, section 24, township 56 north, range 5 west, Boise Meridian, Idaho. Does any commissioner have any ex parte communication or conflict of interest to disclose regarding this application, the applicant, the representative, things like that? No, I don't either. So with that, we'll cede the floor to staff.
Good evening, commissioners and members of the public. I'm Swati, Bonner County Planning Staff. The first file we have with us tonight is MOD 323. That is request for a modification of a conditional use permit, file number C 926-09. Through this request, the applicants are requesting to modify a condition of a previously approved conditional use permit, file C 926-09. This particular file was approved with a limitation of 5 employees on site. Now the applicant is requesting to increase the number of employees from 5 to 10. The site is generally located in Southwest Bonner County in section 34, township 56 north, range 5 west, Boise Meridian. And the site is accessed off Hoop Loop Road, which is a Bonner County owned and maintained public right of way. This is the site plan from the previously approved conditional use permit. The applicants are not requesting to add any structures on site in order to add employees to the function. This file was routed to several public agencies for their review: Panhandle Health District, West Pondere District, Fire District, Inland Power and Light. That should be Bonner County School District 83, Bonner County Schools Transportation, Idaho Department of Lands and Navigable Waters, Bonner County Road and Bridge, DEQ, IDWR, Fish and Game, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We received comments from Panhandle Health District and West Pondere Fire District, Inland Power, Idaho Department of Environmental Quality, and Idaho Department of Fish and Game replied with no comments. We did not receive any other comments from other agencies. Panhandle Health District replied with this letter. This letter is in response to a request from Steve Klatt on behalf of his client, Whitehorse Media, to review the septic permit for the subject property located at 850 Hoop Loop Road, Priest River. The property owner wanted to assess the septic capability, expanding their permitted employee base from 5 to 10. And the agency says that in reviewing the septic permit issued in 2009, based upon the final inspection constructed, the septic system design and installation specifications were for daily flows capable of managing wastewater created by 10 employees on the project location. The comment from West Pondere Fire District says that we have reviewed the application for the CUP to increase the number of employees from 5 to 10. And the applicant is in compliance with the International Fire Code 2018. There are no negative comments from the agency to offer on this file.
Swati, would you go back 2 slides?
Absolutely.
So a request from Steve Klatt on behalf of his client. Is Steve Klatt representing the applicant?
Yes, he's the project representative. Yes.
Excellent, thank you.
We did receive 2 public comments on this file. The theme of those comments were inadequacy of septic tank and drain field, pollution of groundwater by overburdened septic system, disposing of chemicals, traffic concerns, current zoning not suitable for the proposal. Some general information about the site. As discussed before, the site is accessed off Hoop Loop Road, which is a Bonner County owned and maintained public right of way. The site is currently being served by individual septic systems: West Pondere Fire District, Inland Power and Light, West Pondere School District 83, Bonner County Ambulance District, and Pondere Hospital District. These are the standards of review against which the file was reviewed. But, and all of this discussion has been laid out in a lot of detail in the staff report that was presented to the commission. So I will touch upon only a few important points from that staff report. Sewer has been a topic of concern for this project. As discussed previously, Panhandle Health District did reply with a comment saying that the septic system currently on the site is adequate for 10 employees at the project location. We send this request for review of the project to Idaho Department of Water Resources. The agency did not comment with any negative comments saying that the project would create any problems for the neighborhood. For fire, West Pondere Fire District replied that the increase of number of employees from 5 to 10 would still be within compliance of the International Fire Code 2018. For parking, the site of the area is sufficient to accommodate additional parking spaces that may be required by 5 additional employees on site. And in order to mitigate any impacts from the addition of employees, staff suggests that the following condition of approval be added to the modification request. All parking for additional employees shall be accommodated off-street and on-site. The findings of facts of the case have not changed since the time the staff report was prepared. And there are only 2 suggested conditions of approval if the commission today decides to approve the project. One would be to modify the condition A9 of the previous conditional use permits file C92609 to read as follows. The number of employees shall be limited to 10 on site at any time. The maximum number shall not include the owner or manager and family. Any expansion of the number of employees on site shall require a modification of the conditional use permit. And addition of condition A10, which says all parking for additional employees shall be accommodated off-street and on-site. That concludes my presentation. I can take any questions at this time.
Swati, anybody have questions for Swati?
Was the original conditional use only for 5 employees?
It was.
Somewhere it's mentioned in the fire department said they was originally approved for 10. So
Yes.
why would we be here? If that's the case?
Because the zoning commission at that time limited the conditional use permit to 5. We don't know the reasons for why they did that. But yes, they, like for the fire, they had adequate
Okay.
capacity to do that.
Sewer too, it sounded like.
Right, for sewer too.
Thank you. As the applicant present, like present or the representative? Yeah, from the roster, please. Yeah.
You want me to open up the map or?
Steve Glatt representing the,
You're good.
good thing I saw the risk manager just leave the building. I'm always glad that's not me. Once again, Steve Glatt representing Whitehorse Media and the owner of the property, Steve and Kristen Wahlberg. So it's interesting coming back with this. Over the many years I've worked with projects in Bonner County, these are owners that have always made an effort to be compliant with BCRC. And so the history of this was we started as a home occupation, and that was to allow us to get started on the building project. But we designed the building and thought of the number of employees that would take if the business continued to grow. And so we designed parking, and we designed and worked with the fire department and worked with Panhandle Health for 10 employees, because as we looked at the building and looked at if the business continued to grow, that would be the number that would fill the building and for all the things that they hope to grow into. When we were dealing with the planning director and converting from home occupation to conditional use, the director at that time felt fairly strongly, for reasons I don't recall, except she thought we should really be dealing with the number of employees that were in the business right at that time and what was going to be the request. And that's where at the planning director's request, we reduced it from 10 employees to 5 employees at that time. But the parking was laid out, septic was laid out, fire considerations were made with the fire department for the design of the building for 10 employees. So when I looked at the letters, there were 2 letters written opposing this project or this modification. They were talking about the septic and the groundwater, and one of them were involved in the construction of the residence for the owners, and they may not have realized that there was actually the building is not connected to the residential septic system. It was a separate septic system designed specifically for a workload of 10 employees in the future. So that septic system is designed to handle the groundwater that's in the site. As you know, you dig test holes and you look at the soil gradations, and so that was done. And then I noticed there was an objection to traffic and delivery vehicles and the increase of traffic on the road. I don't believe that the majority of those are products of this business. Businesses tend to arrange shipping and deliveries that come once a day, and that's, if your business grows, they're still coming once a day. There may be 2 deliveries, but I think we've all noticed on whatever county road we're on or around, the number of FedEx and UPS trucks coming and going has increased dynamically since 2020, and that's just the way life is. All of us, including myself, you tend to order more things online than we ever did 5 years ago. That's just, so that's the deliveries that are around the county. I really believe this is a minor modification. I would like to introduce a letter that we received and read part of it into the record. I have copies of it. It was submitted to the owners after the fact, or after the closing of, and I'll just hand this to Jake. And just to verify that there's copies for whoever you'd like to have them. And it came from a neighbor, and it just talks that fellow's name is Ronald Smith, and he says, my wife and I have lived 2 properties away from White Horse Media for the past 2 years and has driven by numerous times and actually have visited the facility many times. The property is well maintained. The operations are quiet and above reproach. The staff has always been exceedingly courteous and helpful. As far as I'm aware, the nonprofit organization occupying these premises has never posed a problem for anyone in the neighborhood. I cannot see the traffic in the area will be adversely affected. So that's a person who is immediately affected by this operation. And I've always been impressed in working with this owner. He was interested. One of the things I suggested in the very beginning was take the time to walk around, talk to your neighbors, tell them what you're thinking of. You're in a neighborhood, you want to be in the neighborhood, and you want to remain good neighbors with the people that you are around. And I've always noticed that every case that he's made every effort to do so. So I don't believe that what the modification they're requesting will really have a negative impact anyone will notice in that neighborhood. That really is all I have. Since you ate in front of us and made us all hungry, I think I'm ready to go home and have dinner, but I will certainly answer any questions if there's questions from the commission.
Why apply for this change now? Most people would just say, oh, we've got everything we need for 10 employees. It's a piece of paper, so let's just hire 10 employees.
I commend the owners. It's the way that we have approached, and they have approached everything from the very beginning of the home occupation to now. Is they don't have an immediate need for 10 employees, but the business has the potential to grow. They would just like to see that they are legally compliant. It's what we designed for, and they would rather be compliant with BCRC than they would be, as most of us have lived around Bonner County for many years. And I won't look at Frank as a builder, but the idea that if you get caught, ask for forgiveness. They really do approach life differently, and they always have to try to be compliant. So that's the reason.
And there was a concern in one of the public comments that was written in about chemical pollution to the ground or something. Does this business have any activity that would generate chemical byproducts that you could dump into the ground?
Is not the way that they operate in any media business. Could there be a chemical in a production plant? Yes, there could be, but they handle everything responsible. I think that's off base. I would really defer for a definite statement on that. The owner and the manager of those businesses are here. If I may just ask them, I mean, is there any substance?
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just want to know if there was anything behind that comment.
Right. I think that several of those comments show really a lack of awareness of what their business is. So.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Platt? No. Okay, thank you, sir.
After watching SWAT, I'm coming out of here carefully.
Watch your step. Look, would you grab the sign up sheet? Oh, Janet, would you bring a sign up sheet? Tyson, bring a sign. Thank you, sir. Okay. So we'll move to public testimony. And I'll just explain the rules once for all three files. Rules for public testimony. Please speak into the microphone. Here, this microphone in front of me, loud and clear so that we can all understand you. And so that people at home and our future selves can understand you as well. These microphones, the primary purpose of these microphones is not for us to hear in the room. It's for the record. Be sure to state your name. Time limit is 3 minutes for testimony, and there'll be a timer. You can see that there's a timer on the screen right now. Any public testimony may receive an extra 3 minutes and no more, donated from another person who has signed up to share public testimony for a total of no more than 6 minutes. Comments will be limited to the specifics of this file only. If any public testimony agrees with the previously shared public testimony, please show respect for everyone's time and simply state that you agree with that testimony. Personal or derogatory comments about another person or the position are not allowed. I'll ask you to leave if that happens. Clapping, cheering, or booing is not allowed. I will have you leave. Remember that this hearing is being shared live via the internet and is being recorded for public viewing later. So the chair opens the hearing for public testimony. We did read a couple of written public comments and one that was just submitted. Everybody got a copy of that one. Go to the sign up sheet. Steve Wahlberg, applicant. Okay. Did you want to make a public statement besides? Okay. Paul Selco. Would you care to speak? Okay, Paul's here in favor. And Larry Larson. Would you like to comment? Okay, come on up to the microphone. Yeah. State your name and then just watch that timer there. Okay.
Larry Larson. Yeah, after talking to some of the neighbors around the area, you know, most of the concerns about grass. Respectful of Steve, he doesn't know the traffic that's out there, so I'm trying to call him on that one. Couple things that haven't been addressed in the application is there's no signage out there. I talked to many other people, and they've all been, people have stopped to try to find it. So, you know, that wasn't addressed. Hours of operation haven't been addressed. You know, we're not running a 24-hour operation. For sure, not residential. Most people, including me and Tom, think it's a big concern.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, and is there anyone that hadn't signed up that would like to make public testimony on this file tonight? Thank you. Okay, commissioners now have an opportunity to discuss the file before we Close the hearing to public testimony. For the deliberation, anything to discuss before we close?
Those guys get some. Public comment.
After this, right. The discussion part is optional. After that, we'll close to public testimony and then ask for rebuttal.
I think something that we could talk about that might help them in their rebuttal was. This gentleman made a pretty interesting point, about hours and signage. There's probably more likely they're not allowed to have a sign because it's a residential, or maybe there's some restrictions there or something. But I've been in that situation where, there's a business nearby and nobody knows how to get there, and maybe Google sends them to your house, and it's really annoying. So might be something that maybe some Google Maps or something, but there might be other alternatives as opposed to putting on a sign. They can't do it. Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be able to expand on that. We talked
Yeah.
about it.
And I look forward to hearing staff explain the hours of operation. I'm sure that that's says.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's,
All I have.
Yeah, I only have one other thing is regarding traffic. I mean, think about the average number of trips on that road for a single family residence versus, potentially 10 employees. Maybe the employees are going to the store or doing this or that, or going to lunch to Police River, to get some fine dining in the big city. Anyways, there could be, pretty meaningful amount of trips generated from that property compared to others, so I think that's about it.
five different employees. Would you come up to the microphone and introduce yourself for the record?
Road manager, like the media. Current hours of operation, Monday to Thursday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sometimes you don't have any.
Commissioner, sorry, may I interject on this?
Of course.
For modification of conditional use permits, we are not allowed to review the project as a whole. It has to be limited to the request for modification. So
Okay.
all that we can review is expansion of number of employees from 5 to 10.
Okay.
We cannot review the conditions of approval that were previously approved with the original permit.
Okay. Thank you for clarification, Swati. I do want to continue just exploring it briefly for the benefit of the public.
Mhm.
Cool. Thank you. Was it Larry? Paul, Larry, Paul. Yeah. All right, Chair closes the hearing of public testimony and Mr. Klatt, would you care to share a rebuttal?
I would.
Okay.
Well, I think you can stay where you're at. I think I can speak there.
Be fine.
I know she's wisely going around the other way. Steve Clapper, for the record. There are, two things. One, if I misspoke and a neighbor, if I was wrong in that, he would clearly have a better idea than I do, but I just noticed that I know for a fact on all roads, including the one I live on, which is dead end, there are considerably more traffic in delivery trucks than there ever was 5 years ago. And as far as, I think that even though this is not, it could be added as part of the modification that the owners, I think, would be more than agreeable if you condition, a small directional sign needs to identify where the business is at, what people are asking for, and the address on it. That can be done and as a condition, even with expanding employees, but the hours not be expanded beyond 4 days a week and 8 to 6. Person flex sign in there. Those are things you want to condition with that was a condition of approval for the modifications of that employees. I think those are both agreeable modifications to the owners. That's all that.
Mr. Clapp. Body. Tell us more about what we can and cannot do as a commission on this file with regard to signage and hours of operation.
I should probably pull up that part of the code that refers to
Okay.
modification applications.
Seems to me that a building location permit would be required for a sign. And does the code allow for signs in R5? I don't know. And we're opening up a can of worms there if we want to
So
acquire it.
the way I would suggest that the commission reviews this file is that would the increase in the number of employees result in conditions that is it because of the number of increase in employees that you need to need a sign, or do you or is it just a general condition that should have been with the original permit? If it is just a general condition that should have been with the original permit, then that condition doesn't belong with this application.
Okay. That makes sense to me.
But if something is a resultant of increase in employees, then yes, that would be under your purview.
What would they have to do to put a sign up? If they wanted to. Oh, come and get a building permit.
But then again, I mean, is that the commission's?
No, I'm
okay.
just, for them and for us to.
Okay. Yeah, they would just have to follow our sign code and,
If they need a sign, they can apply.
right.
Okay, anything else we should discuss? While we're in the rebuttal portion. Fantastic. Thank you, Swati. The chair closes this hearing to public testimony. And commissioners will now deliberate the file. Commissioners deliberate. I don't think that the sign is within the scope of this modification because it doesn't have anything to do with county employees. We could simply add a condition for the hours because that might have something to do with growth in employees and say hours are 8 to 6 Monday through Thursday. And that would be a nice check the box. Make it feel better. But I could go either way on that. Thoughts?
No, I wouldn't regulate that aspect, but I would like to know before, what the county has for laws for like home businesses, like in a residential zone, like I'm sure there's a stop and start time, right? I'm just curious for myself, or like, or, I don't know, maybe they decide at some point they want to work Tuesday through Friday. I don't see how adding a couple more employees bears, makes, I don't see how that, I would think that a sign makes more sense than that. Just in terms that there's 5 more people and then maybe their mom or kids or something wants to come by and say hi and can't find it and end up in the neighbor's house or whatever. Literally have that problem, so I know that, I think, and like they probably hear this now too, and would probably just go get a permit, put up a sign, solve that issue internally and tell their neighbors sorry.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Same thing with the sign, just Googled it here and did Google Maps and nothing pops up, so. I don't think it's too hard. It looks like you already have Google reviews and everything else, so it's not that hard to just associate that with an address. On there, and then whoever's using maps or whatever.
Did you check Apple Maps, Bing Maps, OpenStreet Maps?
Yeah.
What
about Yahoo?
Yeah, exactly.
Frank, any thoughts on this file?
Bill.
Yeah, really appreciate the representative reaching out to Panhandle Health before the committee, before the meeting, so that we had clarification on that concern.
I think the biggest concern from the person that came here was just people showing up in other places, and I'm sure that the owners would probably want to fix that anyways.
Yeah.
And traffic, nobody likes traffic.
The commissioner care to make a motion on this file?
I'll make a motion.
Move.
Okay. My class. I move to approve the project file MOD 0003-23, requesting a modification to a previously approved conditional use permit file number C 926-09 to increase the number of employees from 5 to 10 for a media recording studio located on a 5-acre property zone, rural 5 in section 34, township 56 north, range 5 west, Boise Meridian, Idaho. Finding that it is in accord with the general and specific objectives of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan and the Bonner County Revised Code as enumerated in the following conclusions of law. Number 1, the proposed conditional use permit is in accord with the general and specific objectives of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan. Number two, this proposal is reviewed for compliance with the criteria and standards set forth at the BCRC Title 12, Chapter 12, Subchapter 2.2, Conditional Use Permits, Chapter 4, Development Standards, and Chapter 7, Environmental Standards. The proposal is in accordance with the Bonner County Revised Code. The proposed use will not create a hazard or will not be dangerous to persons on or adjacent to the property. This decision is based upon evidence submitted up to the time the staff report was prepared and testimony received at this hearing. Further move to adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law as set forth in the staff report or as amended during this hearing. And direct planning staff to draft written findings and conclusions to reflect this motion. Have the chairman sign and submit to all interested parties. The action that could be taken to obtain this modification of the conditional use permit C926-09 is complete. The condition of approval as adopted. This action does not result in taking of private property.
Commissioner care to discuss the motion? Any commissioner second the motion?
I second the motion. Webster.
We have a second. Commissioner will now vote for my left, please.
Commissioner Wakely, aye.
Commissioner Marble, aye.
Commissioner Weimer, aye.
Commissioner Webster, aye.
Motion carries with 4 voting in favor and none voting against. We'll go to our second file tonight. File MOD 2-23. Modification of CM 800-07 residential care facility. The applicants are requesting modification to a conditional use permit for additional housing. The property is zoned R5. The project is located off Spirit Lake Cutoff in section 18, township 54 North, range 4 West, Boise and Meridian. So the applicants are requesting a modification to a conditional use permit. The conditional use permit is for additional housing, right? Or is the conditional use permit being modified for additional housing?
Correct.
The second one?
So I will cover that momentarily.
All right.
So the proposal is for an expansion of an existing facility.
Okay.
In addition to adding additional structures.
Okay. Does any commissioner have any ex parte communication or conflict of interest to disclose regarding this application for modification of conditional use permit? No. Okay. And if I recall correctly, this is something that we've seen before at this commission. Now we're modifying it now. Staff, your turn.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniel Britt, planning staff for the record. We're here this evening to talk about a modification to a modification and a conditional use permit. So we're looking at the modification of MOD 0002-22 and CM 800-07. So before we get started this evening, there's a couple changes to the staff report that you need to be made aware of. And as we look at that, we want to turn to page 2 of the staff report and look at the public use table for private community facility. That was made in error on page 2. It should be for the commercial use table for nurseries, daycare centers, child/adult as presented by staff this evening in this presentation. We will be making a correction that aligns with page 2 on page 4 with the public use table. That should be BCRC 12-333 commercial use table. Note 2 and 16 is presented by staff in this presentation later. And then staff would also like to add a findings of fact to amend, and that'd be number 8. And when we get to that point, we'll discuss that further, just to bring to your attention. With that, I will begin the presentation. These are the applicable standards that were reviewed for this modification. You will see that minor change on the third one to BCRC 12-335, the public use table. of a private community facility that will be amended, and I will discuss that here momentarily. The applicant is requesting modification of a conditional use permit to add 7 new residential structures and expand an existing adult care facility. The expansion is intended to be phased. The proposed 7 new structures are approximately 1,700 square feet each. The expansion of the existing facility is approximately 6,000 square feet. That image on the screen is what the proposal will look like. I'm going to show you some other ones that will be easier to read momentarily. So looking at the screenshot on the left side, that's MOD 0002-22 that was in front of this commission a little over a year ago. With that modification, there were B conditions associated with that modification. The applicant made all the attempts to meet those B conditions before their A conditions could be implemented. When they went back to the drawing board, it appears that there was a significant change to the site plan, which we're looking at the right side, which is MOD 0002-23, which is tonight's file. I get that the nomenclature is pretty similar. That being said, they were able to obtain all or meet all the B conditions that were required of them. Through meeting those B conditions, there were some changes made that were through the design process in order to meet those B conditions that we're looking at the site plan on the right this evening, which addresses the modification for the additions to the main facility that we see there in the gray, and then slowly phasing out those 7 other structures that we see. So that's what we're focusing on this evening. So a little background on this parcel. It is an unplatted 5-acre parcel that's zoned AF10, and the land use designation is ag forest land. Access to the parcel is Spirit Lake Cutoff, which is a Bonner County owned and maintained 65 or 60-foot wide paved right of way. There are some environmental features found on this property. It does contain map slopes, which isn't in this image, but it's a small amount. It does contain a map wetland that we see there in the green. It does not contain any frontage on any water courses. It's within special flood hazard zone X. Services available to the parcel are an individual well, individual septic system. Fire protection is afforded through Spirit Lake Fire District. Power is Northern Lights Incorporated. It is within Bonner County School District number 83. So this is the commercial use table that should have been included in the staff report. As we look at it, under the AF zone where that arrow is at the top of your screen, and to the left of the screen where it says nurseries and daycare centers, child and adult, that's note 2 and note 16. The difference between note 3 that you find in your staff report and this note, note 2 requires that the proposal be accessed by emergency vehicles and the road be developed to adequately give access to those emergency vehicles. Staff found that the proposal is adjacent to Spirit Lake Cutoff Road, which is a which is a paved, and that does say gravel, I apologize, owned 60-foot right, 60-foot wide paved right of way, and is construction for access for emergency vehicles. Note 16 is that the project has to meet Idaho code. The applicant shall follow Idaho code for all adult care facilities. So they should be able to meet that, but that's a state regulation to which Bonner County doesn't have any jurisdiction over. These are the following agencies that were routed for this modification. Spirit Lake Fire District did submit a response, which is in your file this evening. Idaho Department of Environmental Quality and Idaho Department of Fish and Game responded with no comment, and we did not hear back from the other agencies listed. There were no public comments received for this proposal. So in looking back, the proposal, in addition to meeting the standards in the commercial use table, are also required to meet the performance standards parking standards, sign standards. The additional design standards found in 12-4.5, landscaping and screening standards, grading, stormwater management, and erosion control, and wetland standards. The applicant is able to achieve this to meet the code and exceed those requirements. They did get a delineation for that wetlands. They did submit a professionally prepared stormwater plan and landscaping plan as well. And they'll be able to meet the design standards and parking standards as set forth for the 7 new structures. So getting to the findings of fact, number 8, staff recommends, but this is up to the commission to decide that the proposal shall meet the standards in BCRC 12-333 commercial use table for nurseries, daycares, daycare centers, child and adult be added to the findings of fact. Staff concludes this project is consistent with Bonner County Revised Code based on the information found in the background portion of the staff report. This conclusion demonstrates in the findings of fact and conclusions of law, conditions of approval have been added to facilitate the project's conformance to Bonner County Revised Code. That concludes my presentations, commissioners, if you have any questions.
So in the 2022 version, what's the history with that didn't get approved?
Like it didn't have access for turnarounds for emergency vehicles.
So we can pull that up. It did get a unanimous approval from the zoning commission at the time, back in 2022, just to give clarity, because I know Commissioner Weimer, you were not here at the time. There was great debate over that and some of the parking and access. The applicant can probably speak to this a little bit better than I can. Based on what they shared with me, there is an easement that occurs or exists, on the northern side of the parcel itself. So up in this area, in order to have that access easement to be in compliant with that easement, some of this structure needed to be altered to turn northeasterly direction, so to speak, for lack of a better direction, as well as in addition to this, just to bring the whole building together. You can see from here, how this all went away. They were able to build some better access roads as they phase this with hammerheads for turnaround for emergency vehicles, and combine these structures. So there's fewer structures. I believe the square footage is the same for the habitable portion as it was approved here, because they did get approved for a certain square footage, to which this site plan is still meeting that same square footage within probably 100, 200 square feet. So it's pretty darn close. And it's a better product for the code. Mhm. I appreciate that.
Any questions for Mr. Griffin? Thank you, Daniel.
You're welcome.
And is the applicant present tonight? Would you care to speak?
My name is Troy Davis, I'm still Metal Investments. And just to kind of add what Daniel said, basically what happened is our approval last year had the 7 duplexes on it. The problem, as we had to caulk the building because for the access, the building size increased about 400 or 500 square feet, no more beds or bedrooms. But it just made, as you see, we had a caulk, we had to add that. But when you get the permit, the addition is that we just all have the whole square footage. That's why I put in modification to change the square footage that the building is. And Dan said a couple of housekeeping things. So
Just looking at the map, it looks totally different, but really there are a lot of similarities still, like the beds, like you say.
Yes, last year, I think we were approved 44 beds, and that's because we, our original one has been, as we got into start mapping out the site, it didn't fit, so we cut it down in that meeting last year. So we did just the 7 last year.
Any questions for that?
You, on the north side of this road that's running like east and west on the west side Hammerhead, there's no room for additional units up above there,
But we don't know to the, oh.
just up north of the road.
No, that's on slope.
I noticed that hill.
Yeah, it's still a slope. Well, we could flip some of there, but you got it cutting it one spot.
Just wondering.
It's set.
Thanks, sir. All right. What public testimony? Already read the rules. Chair opens the hearing to public testimony. Before this hearing, commissioners were provided with no public comments. Is anyone tonight here to share public testimony on this file? Treasurer Parker?
There.
Here to comment?
No.
Okay. And Troy Davis, you just talked to us. No. Anybody online? Okay, we'll forego discussion and chair closes the hearing public testimony. We just heard from the applicant. Do you care to share a rebuttal? I suspect no. Okay. Staff, do you care to rebut?
I have nothing more to add. Thank you, Commissioner.
Nothing to add, he says, okay. Commissioners will now deliberate the file. Commissioners deliberate. Or agree.
I think it's an improvement. Yeah. For the applicants and everybody. I think it's a good job doing that.
I was wondering when I asked,
More cost effective too.
I mean, when I asked the question I was asking, I was wondering because I was like, oh, wonder if they're gonna be back with another modification for a couple more places up above here, or what's going on. But it's just interesting because it, seems like a better product of. I remember last time when we looked at this, we were wondering if those were roads, but it was kind of explained as like walkways or something.
You can see how the fire department came in.
Yeah. So I was thinking, right, we need a cul-de-sac there. Improvement. Way better. Cool.
Any commissioner care to make a motion?
Commissioner Webster, I move to approve this project file MOD 0002-23 to allow for an addition to the existing facility and add 7 additional structures for an adult assisted living facility, finding that it is in accord with the general and specific objectives of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan and Bonner County Revised Code as enumerated in the following conclusions of law. And based upon the evidence submitted at the time of the staff report was prepared and testimony received at this hearing, I further move to adopt the findings of fact as set forth in the staff report in the following conclusions of law. Conclusion 1, the proposed conditional use permit is in accord with Bonner County Comprehensive Plan. Conclusion 2, this proposal was reviewed for compliance with the criteria and standards set forth in Title 12 BCRC Chapter 2, Subchapter 2.6, BCRC Chapter 3, Subchapter 3.3, BCRC Chapter 4, Subchapter 4.2 through 4.6, Chapter 7, Subchapter 7.2 and 7.3 Bonner County Revised Code. Conclusion 3, the proposed use will not create a hazard or will not be dangerous to persons on or adjacent to the property. I move to direct the planning staff to draft written findings and conclusions to reflect this decision and transmit to all interested parties. This action could be taken, the action that could be taken to obtain this conditional use permit is to complete the conditions of the approval as adopted. This action does not result in the taking of private property.
Commissioner, did you want to modify your motion to add an 8th finding of fact as amended or something from?
Yeah. And I.
Correct. You don't have to add that. That's a commission's,
What's that?
that's the commission's choice to add number 8 to the findings of fact if you'd like to. Staff does recommend that you do that.
I'd like to amend my motion to add this condition. Finding of fact, eight, the proposal shall meet the standards of BCRC 12-333 commercial use table for for nurseries and daycare centers, child or adult.
Commissioner Webster has so moved. Does any commissioner care to discuss the motion or second the motion?
Commissioner Weimer, second.
We have a motion and a second, and Commissioner will now vote from my left, please.
Commissioner Wakely, aye.
Commissioner Marl, aye.
Commissioner Weimer, aye.
Commissioner Webster, aye.
Motion carries and 4 voting in favor and none voting against. Yeah, I was just debating that in my head. Time is 6:25. This hearing will be, chair calls for a 10-minute recess. The hearing will resume at 6:35. Time is 6:33. The meeting will come to order. Final file tonight is ZC 723. Zone change. Ag Forest 20 to Ag Forest 10. The applicant is requesting a zone change from Ag Forest 20 to Ag Forest 10. On 23 acres, the property is zoned Ag Forest 20. The project is located off East Side Road in Section 9, Township 57 North, Range 4 West, Boise Meridian. Daniel, is it your turn again?
It is my turn, Commissioner. But technology and I are having some challenges, so if you'll bear with me momentarily. I'd appreciate it.
Glad to see that we have a big crowd for this one.
I know, and I'm sweating it.
Commission will relax. Hey, is this, I can hear myself.
Yeah,
And they-
it's slightly amplified.
Slightly. Yeah.
I'll cover that in my announcement at the end.
I gotta miss more meetings.
No.
Okay, Commissioners, look alive. Here we go. Good evening, Commissioners. Daniel Britt, planning staff. For the record, we're here to discuss zone change 0006-23 from Ag Forest 20 to Ag Forest 10. So Bonner County Revised Code 12-216 states that staff and the governing body shall review the particular facts and circumstances of each proposal submitted and shall determine whether there is adequate evidence that the proposal is in accordance with the general and the specific objectives of the comprehensive plan. Bonner County Revised Code 12-320.1 gives purpose statements for each zoning map designation set forth in the following section and shall be used to guide the application for the zones and designations to all lands in incorporated Bonner County. We're here this evening to discuss Ag Forest 10. The code looks at Ag Forest 10 as this. Ag Forest 10 in areas designated as Ag Forest land in the comprehensive plan that do not feature prime ag soils, but where agricultural and forestry pursuits remain viable. These areas may be within or adjacent to a city of impact, or where lands are afforded fire protection, access to standard roads and other services. This is a breakdown of the standards for review for this project. Currently, it is AF 20. So we look to see if there's prime ag soils, if it's characterized by agricultural or forestry uses, if there's limited services, if slopes steeper than 30% exist, access may be absent or substandard road or part of a substandard road system, and where large tracts may be devoted to ag forest production. Proposal this evening, in order to achieve AF 10, the proposal must not feature prime ag soils, but ag and forestry pursuits remain viable. It can be adjacent to the city of impact or where lands are afforded fire protection and access to standard roads and other services. The applicant is proposing a zone change from agricultural forestry 20 to agricultural forest 10 for the purposes of pursuing a minor land division. The parcel is located adjacent to East Side Road and Priest River, and the proposal is approximately 23 acres. It is an unplatted parcel. It is zoned AF 20 and the land use designation is prime ag forest land. Access is adjacent to East Side Road, which is a Bonner County maintained 50-foot wide prescriptive gravel easement. This is looking at the environmental factors and features on the property and services that are available currently at the property. As we look at the map there in the yellow and red, those are the slopes found on there, and I'll discuss that a little bit later. The site does not contain any mapped wetlands. It does not contain any mapped waterfront or streams. It's within special flood hazard zone X, meaning the chance of flooding is minimal, if non-existent. Currently, the water that's supplied to this parcel is 2 developed springs. There is an individual septic system. Fire protection is West Ponderay Fire District. Avista Utilities is the power company, and it is within, West Bonner County School District number 83, not Lake Ponderay. So looking at the prime ag soils on the property, if there's any. So there in the green is the Dufert silt loam, and in purple, we're looking at the Bonner silt loam. These 2 soil types, there are 2 soil types on the parcel. Both of these are classified as non-prime farmland. Both soils are poorly suited for cultivation of crops. However, timber production is possible with these soil types. So we look to see if the parcel is characterized by agricultural forestry uses. If you look at all the properties highlighted there in pink, the proposal we're talking about there is highlighted in blue. Those are some forestry activities that are taking place on those pink parcels that we see. Some of those are privately owned, some are state-owned lands to which they either farm and or used for harvesting timber. So the state of Idaho characterized agricultural forestry pursuits. The total of area of such land, including the home site, is more than 5 contiguous acres and is actively devoted to profitable agricultural or forestry activities. The general area of this proposal is characterized by ag and forestry pursuits. The proposal will remain within the ag forestry district where these pursuits will remain viable. The agricultural forestry does not allow for properties to be less than the 10 acres. The proposal has afforded public services such as West Ponderay Fire District, as we see in the slide there, the Bonner County Sheriff, Avista Utilities, and the West Bonner County School District. Private services include an individual septic system and 2 developed springs. The proposal is outside of the area of city impact for Priest River, however. So back to the slopes as previously mentioned. As we look at this parcel here and the requirements to be F20, it should be characterized by slopes steeper than 30%. The 30% is indicated there in the bright red. And then the yellow is 15 to 29% or 30% looking at the legend at the top of the screen. So this parcel is not characterized by map sloper than 30%. The map slopes on the property range largely between 15 and 30%, with areas of 0 to 15% spread throughout the 23 acres. So now we look to see access to the parcel. And as we look at this, the parcel is accessed by Eastside Road and Eastside Cutoff Road, which are both Bonner County owned and maintained 60-foot wide gravel right-of-ways. The proposal is adjacent to Eastside Road. This portion of the road is a prescriptive easement that Bonner County Road and Bridge maintains. The proposal is accessed by a network of standard roads. So I think it's worth noting where the southwest portion of this parcel, that's where the easement, prescriptive easement begins, Eastside Road for Bonner County, and goes all the way up into Priest Lake there. These are the following agencies that were routed for comment. West Ponderay Fire District submitted a comment that's found in your folders this evening. Bonner County Road and Bridge Department, Idaho Department of Environmental Quality, Idaho Department of Fish and Game, all replied with no comments, and we did not hear back from the other agencies listed there. No public comments were received for this request. So staff concludes that this proposal is consistent with the proposed zoning of the Ag Forest 10 Bonner County Revised Code and the general and the specific objectives of Bonner County Comprehensive Plan based on the information found in the background and the staff review and analysis portion of this staff report. And as demonstrated by the findings of facts and the conclusions of law. That includes my presentations, commissioners. I can take any questions.
East Side Road is a prescriptive easement.
Correct.
That means there's no document declaring it, but it's there and we all agree it's there. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's East Side Road, right from where that T is all the way up. From the southwest corner of that piece all the way north.
So let's go back to that portion.
Does the property actually touch the, what's the other road there that's heading in from the west?
This is East Side Cutoff Road. This is East Side Road. The prescriptive easement starts here and continues on up till it ends and wraps back into, I think, Peninsula Road up there.
And that portion is not county maintained or anything, right?
So everything we see in here, green, Commissioner, is county maintained. So the county maintains
He's
everything north.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's just that portion. I learned that through the last zone change that was done on this parcel through here, that we can look at that map in a moment to find out that was a prescriptive easement. But the county does maintain it. And so this is part of that zone change that I learned about with this parcel. That was the prescriptive easement, or is.
So they changed that parcel from 10 to 40? Or
Um,
20 to 40?
This parcel went from AF 20 to AF 10.
Okay, it was hard to tell.
Right. Yeah, a little challenging there.
Thank you, Daniel.
You're welcome.
Daniel, was that one just to the north done by the director? Or what's the new, I'm sorry, the hearing planner or the hearing examiner?
Oh, the hearing examiner?
Yeah.
I don't believe so. No, the applicant was Reed was her last name.
Okay.
Hearing examiner can't make decisions or recommendations. That's all.
Okay. So that was a while ago, that zone change.
Oh, it was 21 possibly, the end of
Okay.
21.
Is the applicant present?
Should be online.
Okay.
And if there's any interruptions with his presentation, he has asked somebody to be here to speak on his behalf as well.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you, Paul. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's as stated, I'm interested in doing a minor subdivision of the property. So as I prepared for my retirement, I can afford to move out, and the property breaks itself quite easily into two pieces, which would be, for the hobbyist farmer, if you would, if they so chose. And I think that for me, this would be the ideal outcome is to get this rezoned so that I could financially move forward with it.
Okay. Does any commissioner have questions for the applicant, Paul? Okay.
Nope.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Chair opens the hearing to public testimony. For the hearing, we didn't receive any written comments. Susie Hatfield, present. Would you care to comment from the microphone tonight? Don't have to.
I don't think I would need to unless you drop service with home.
Okay, thank
But
you.
I sold 4 properties out there and adjacent to that property. I sold Collins property, I sold the one we subdivided already. in surrender. I'm very familiar and I've walked all of those properties up there. I'm really looking through to actually walk my together.
And does anyone else care to make public comment tonight? Okay. Commission, the chair closes the hearing of public testimony. You have anything else to say, Daniel?
Unless if you have more questions for me, I have nothing to add.
I've got nothing to but for you to rebut. Okay, the commissioners will now deliberate the file. Commissioners deliberate.
Well, I think this property is more suited to a bank for and. That's the staff report. Makes sense. I agree.
You can kind of see on the slopes where there's already kind of two building sites ready to go and 10 acres each for crying out loud.
Very good access up County Road.
It's interesting, the prescriptive easement and county maintained road. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wonder how many acres beyond that. That's all I learned.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we have public rights of way that
Non-maintained.
are unmaintained.
Yeah.
That are definitely not prescriptive easements. They're written down. Yeah,
I think it's convenient to keep that open.
curse you system. Okay. Would any commissioner care to make a motion? I have to.
Waitley, I recommend the motion to recommend approval.
Oh, I need to interrupt you, Commissioner. At the beginning of this file, I forgot to ask, does any commissioner have conflicts of interest or ex parte communication about this application to disclose at this time?
I have one question. Are you related to Jake Hatfield? Okay, I've done some business with her son, I'm assuming, or nephew or stepson, okay, but it would not affect my decision. I didn't know that until she mentioned her name. And I was like, oh, I think I know who this might be.
Great. We got anything else? Okay. Sorry, Commissioner, I interrupted you.
Okay, I move to recommend to the board of county commissioners approval of this project file ZC 0007-23, requesting a zone change from agricultural / forestry -20 to agricultural forestry 10. Find that is in accord with the general and specific objectives of Bonner County Comprehensive Plan and Bonner County Revised Code is enumerated in the following conclusions of law. 1. The proposal is in accord with the following elements of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan. Can you read all those? Property right